did you check who was here? Do you have a spreadsheet over there that you did that?
I have a list. Yep, we're good to go.
All right. So we'll call to order. We have no public comment, I don't think, correct?
No public comment.
No public comment. So we need to approve our January and March minutes.
Yeah.
Start with January. Does anybody
come in here if you want.
Mm-hmm. I'll go back and forth.
Hearing none, do we have a motion for approval of January minutes?
I can make the motion.
Thanks.
You may. Yeah.
Second. Anybody? We need a second.
We need a second. Don't all jump up at once here.
I wasn't here, but I'll second it for discussion.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
All right. So do we have any discussion on January minutes? All right. So all those in favor of approving January minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none. Okay. So the minutes from January pass. And we move to the March minutes. I have a motion to approve March minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
A second.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the March minutes pass. Considerations of additions to the agenda. We have any.
To the current agenda?
Correct.
Yeah, I added an addition to that about our work group's letter.
Okay, great. So, and you're in the LPN group, correct?
I think so.
Yes. Okay. Great.
Where would you like to throw that in?
Huh?
Where would you like to add that?
Do you have a number that you'd like to
No,
associate with?
A number?
This is the LPN work groups, you said?
He's up in letter A with sustenance.
Yeah,
Okay.
letter A.
Gotcha.
I guess you could make it number 3.
So it's the LPN work group?
Yep. And put letter, I guess? Hyphen letter, maybe? I don't know. I'll give the update of the status of that.
That works for me. Thank you, Jane.
Great. The attendance over there.
Yeah.
Do I need to put, go ahead, sorry.
All those in favor of approving our agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hooray, we have an agenda. All right. So reports of officers and work groups. So the first item up is an update on Lake Picket developments, which is me. The road master plan. The first PSP for the infrastructure of the loop road was approved. There are some interesting things that came about. It seems as though we have some, well, the utility plan, first of all, included reference to Sustany and Lake Picket North, the master utility plan. We requested that to be removed. It was not. And then we requested wildlife corridors. We requested one of the connector roads that is in the conceptual diagram was not included within the PSP, which was odd. So we didn't know it was coming out, what's happening. But anyways, the road master plan was approved. And it's going to come out in phases. They have several other PSPs, which is the preliminary subdivision plans, which have been submitted through fast track that we're looking at, but they have not yet gone through the DRC review. So we're waiting for those reviews to provide commentary back. The second item there is the Sustany community meeting. And the Sustany community meeting happened on, I think, like March 21st. Out in the area, it was really well attended. I had over 100 people that came. I would say that 100% of the room was opposed to the development, and you would ask when everybody raised their hand, everybody raised their hand with the exception of the developer's team and of course staff. All of the comments were all negative pertaining to it. And tomorrow, Sustany goes before the LPA, the PNC, for transmittal. Staff is making the recommendation to transmit, which is really disappointing. The interesting thing about the new Sustany Lake Picket North is it's taking 18 acres from a rural settlement and putting it within the planned development, which to date, I mean, Orange County has been very good about in terms of protecting the rural settlements and not increasing them in size nor decreasing them in size. So we'll see what happens to that. In addition, we have the community on the south side of 50 is really upset because within the distribution that the county did, they included the Grove property. So the radius distance basically includes a massive parcel of land that has nobody living on it. So the people that are directly across the street south of 50 didn't receive any public notice for the community meeting. And I'm really quite worked up about it. That is an update on the community meeting. But May 10th, we're trying to do something called Rural Roundup. We're going to try it in the morning, 9 o'clock. Try to go to ask for either an urban service area boundary to be added to the charter amendment, which would require the BCC vote at this point. So we could vote on it in November, or it could be referred to as a rural boundary, similar to Seminole County. And so we'll be there for Tuesday morning, and then Emily's office, Commissioner Bonilla, is graciously going to provide us some type of a picnic lunch outside. And then we will have May 10th, that's super important, it's the transmittal of the BCC for Sustany. So we're hoping that it's not transmitted by the BCC. We know that we have 3 no votes for sure. We have District 4, District 1, and District 5 voting no. So we do not know what's happening in the others. We need a swing vote to somebody to join us and to not vote. So we will see how that is. But we really need comments from the public. So if you're available to comment on May 10th, it would be so much appreciated. And then we have Keith with an update on a letter of offer. Is that what it is, Keith?
It is.
Whoa!
That went out on March 29th. This is Lamar.
Wow. Did it go out by the county?
No, it went out by me.
Wow. Did you get a response?
I have not.
Are you expecting one?
No.
I think we kind of looked into like the past history of the property, and apparently, she's been trying to sell this thing to developers, for
Since 2010.
since 2010 years. So she hasn't developed it. I think that they haven't been able to get like the permits. But since they haven't been good permits, they sold it. But I think it became available. So I think we sent a letter. Hey, we're a volunteer group, and we are trying to conserve this area of like East Orange County, and we're working with government groups to try to buy land and make it conserved. There's a whole little econ path right there, so we kind just like adding on sort of to it. Yeah, hopefully, I think it's an absolute Hail Mary, that she'll even respond. But I think I feel good that we sent it out, and
Recording in
Congratulations, you guys, that's awesome stuff.
yeah, it's a little. I think it's a little step, but I think we finally got something actionable done.
Yeah.
Which I feel we've been talking for a long time.
We talked about getting that out for a long time.
So
And it was a challenge to find out who to get it to.
Right.
Yeah.
So is Liz, Beth, no, Beth, is she gonna follow up with an offer from the county?
Well, that might be a new discussion.
Yeah.
Well, Beth has been looking at the properties, and the next step would be real estate, and I haven't heard back from her. Been passed to real estate yet. Land looks good from ecological, as we all know, so they gotta do their stuff, then it goes to real estate. Real estate will make the offer, and then same thing with you guys in the wait mode, say yea or nay. That's, no, I'll put an action on myself. I'll call Beth and ask her.
Eric, we're trying to buy LPN for the county. You know, it's a long
I mean,
shot.
the other thing, when we were in that public maintenance system, sustenance. I have the basic right to give money that goes across the utility boundary, the land along the econ. He said, yes, you do it right away. Asked him at least 3 times. And he said yes each time. So I don't know if Wes or the Commissioner has heard or sent a letter to them and saying, we understand that a citizen asked you this. Is the offer still there? But I mean, we all heard it.
Right.
I mean, I was pretty adamant about that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Wes, have you heard of anything, or will you maybe put a letter together and and send a letter to them?
We're working on what actually has to be written down, but we have reached out to Liz to find out, or Beth, sorry, as to what the process would be for that easement to be granted to Orange County. So we're working on it.
Okay, because it'd been interesting to hear back from it. If he really, I mean, he said 3 times.
Can you explain that again?
Okay, it's that piece of land up on the far north, right along this Seminole County land.
Is that where we went hiking at the power line fence?
The power lines eventually go across the Econ on McCulloch Road. McCulloch Road goes east-west. And if you take McCulloch across Old Lockwood, there's a light there. If you continue, there's a subdivision down there, I think it's Rybridge. And if you continue, you eventually drive into the Econ River currently. That whole easement underneath that power line is part of that property on the east side of the property. So that easement actually is connected to the property on the east side. So if we can get the east side property with the easement, we can get all that easement, which becomes more difficult to do a bridge.
But it's at the situation.
They want to put a bridge, that's what it
That's
is.
the issue that held it up last time, right?
Yeah.
That bridge. That's
Yeah.
what the J article said.
This time what they're doing, it's kind of sly. They're putting up a beautiful bike bridge, which I'm not.
So now they have no, no bridge going across the, so one, they're taking 18 acres from a rural settlement. 2, they've got no bridge to move the traffic of 2,400 homes. So their traffic is all going out onto Lake Pickett. Maybe some of it will go through the Grove out onto Highway 50.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
If the traffic out there is already F, it's only at the E level. I mean, it's just, they're allowing all this development. I can't understand how the county's allowing all this, but I just drove out to District 1 the other night to support Commissioner Wilson, and my God, it took me an hour to drive 15 miles between my house downtown up there. It was insane.
I guess there's not enough traffic in our land there. We want more.
We gotta get more people from the Midwest. You know, and the thing like today's vote that we attended, their argument is it's gonna relieve traffic. It's always about relieving traffic, but the roads that they're always proposing are out on the edge not helping any of us in the city or the county, or the urban areas there.
It defies the law of physics.
It's just, it's so frustrating.
More cars on the road leaves traffic.
Lower density, and because it's all lower density, if you actually do the math, 30 years ago, it was higher density. Believe it or not, it was a higher density when I first moved here 45 years ago.
So, let's see, that's our update on late pickets. Congratulations, and who is sending out the letter? That's great.
Thanks.
That's what I'm gonna. Now, you sent out, who did you send it to? My mother's dad.
Mary Lamar.
That's the daughter.
She's probably in her 60s or 70s, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm checking around on Facebook.
Yeah, maybe she shared it with my dad was.
I would think if you want to sell a property for $1 now, it wouldn't matter who you sell it to unless there's an attachment to a developer somewhere.
Yeah, the middle section shows it, the property appraiser shows it to that Dallas company.
Yeah.
So it's a little confusing. We don't know what happened now. I think she still owns a big chunk of it.
Well, Louise found 3 tracts of land on the property appraiser's website, and those 3 tracts of land had her name and her PO box in common. So that's where I sent it to, was her name and her PO box.
Okay. Or maybe she doesn't go to a PO box all the time.
I think there was also a Winter Park address.
There was.
Just by any chance send it to that one?
I did not.
You should-
Maybe
that's
just,
her
I think you
permanent
should just
address.
send, I think you should send it to that one.
Okay,
Yeah, just send out the Winter Park one.
I can make that happen.
Sure.
I can say, in case you didn't get the letter to your PO box, that was closed down for some reason.
I kind of like this letter format. I feel like we're talking about it, and we say like maybe we can identify some more property and send some more letters out to, identify. And I think we can kind of be the liaison between like the citizen and trying to skip funds to buy some land. So we already think we have some contacts we can facilitate things through in order to.
It'd be nice if we could reach out to the Seminole County side and find some people up there and try to encourage them to get that Clayton property, which is the.
Can I put a pause real quick? Commissioner Bonilla wanted to just say something, and she's got something coming up at 7 o'clock, but she just wants to take a few minutes to say something. So, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to say thank you again for all of your hard work to all the people on the board. Eric, good to see you. Nice that you joined us. I'm very sorry I couldn't be there today. I am trying to listen really hard though. I'll let you guys, I can hear you, but it's kind of low. I don't know if you put the mics closer to yourselves. But you guys sound really clear. It's just not very loud. As far as the Lake Pickett North, I believe that Beth Jackson did send a letter of interest also to the property owners, just to give you that information. But you'd probably have to, or we'd probably have to, keep up with Beth and see, keep that moving forward.
Can you read the letter of interest thing? I didn't catch that.
I didn't either. Did Beth Jackson send it?
Yeah, Beth Jackson sent something. She sent out letters to a bunch of property owners though, not just so like any properties that they've had on their list of interest, they've sent out letters to, and LPN was one of them.
Commissioner, have they filled out the Green Place members yet? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to look to see, but I don't
A number of
Yeah,
us
I don't
put
know.
our names in, but they don't contact you if you don't get picked.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to be the person on the MMRB overseeing that board, but I guess we could check on the website and find out, and whoever that person is, if you're interested in being on the board, it's good to reach out to that person and tell them your interest and give them any information. help them
I
make a
was
decision.
going up through the LPA. Do we have a representative for D5 on the LPA right now? It shows, it says not, that there is, is that true?
We do. We are looking for someone in the BZA.
Yeah, LPA is Gordon Spears.
Oh, so Gordon doesn't cover the P and Z too?
No, they do both.
Okay, is Gordon chairman now, or?
No, Gordon's on there. He's
That's weird, because it says D5 is it doesn't have, is open on the, I thought so,
It's,
I might have messed up.
as I say, it's the BZA, which was my seat, that's now open.
Oh,
But the P and Z should still be, an LPA should still be Gordon.
okay.
all right. So I have to go. I'm gonna try to continue listening in, but I just won't be able to hear too well.
We're
Right.
screaming into the microphone.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks.
Okay, so next up on the agenda is the BCC update regarding rent stabilization. And Wes, can you give that?
I would be happy to do that. So the Board of County Commissioners had a discussion around rent control, debating what authority the county commission actually had some general conversations. Ultimately, they unanimously supported bringing in a consultant to do an analysis to establish if we have an affordable housing crisis in Orange County.
Wait, what? So a 30% increase in people's rent is not a crisis?
So we have to have all the I's dotted and T's crossed. And so a lot of what we had presented, so.
The worst inflation in 40 years.
Yeah, no, I preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
But there was some of the issues regarding homelessness, making sure that the income numbers we were using were from 2019, the homeless rates we were using were from 2019, 2021. So the board wanted to make sure they had the most up-to-date numbers and information. We were just going off of reports that were available from the various county agencies. So this group is going to come in, update all the numbers. On June 5th, they're coming back to the Board of County Commissioners with a formal report. The statute will allow the commissioners to decide if there is in fact a housing emergency or not, and then they can direct staff to draft language to go to the supervisor of elections to be put onto the November ballot. That has to be to the SOE by August 1st. So it's a tight timeline, but we're good as far as keeping it on track to be on the November ballot. It's a little different than the transportation sales tax because it's a tax, it has to get approved by Tallahassee. Because this is ordinance, we do not have to go through that review process. So it streamlines our timeline and makes it a little bit shorter, well, longer. We have more time to do it. So that's where we're at right now. They just sent an outline of what the scope of investigation is going to be. It literally just went out right before 5 o'clock, so I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But everything is lining up to come back to the BCC on June 5th. And we'll ask for public to come out and share their thoughts on June 5th and hopefully be able to move forward with a resolution.
Wes, just out of curiosity, the members on the BCC, I mean, who was unclear if there was a housing crisis? Which commissioners and or mayor?
I think there's hesitancy with District 2 and the mayor as far as the declaration of a housing emergency. That seemed to be the greatest concern. There seemed like there was a push to have multiple options available, which I'm fine with. If we want to do a notice for tenants, like for example, the mayor brought up, notice to tenants 60 days out that your rent is going up, that's fine and dandy, but it doesn't stop the fact that in 60 days your rent is going up. It just tells you in 60 days you're going to be homeless instead of 30 days. So I support something like that, but it should be in addition to, not in lieu of. And I think that's kind of what the concern is. But we're also working to develop a tenant's bill of rights to bring in a third prong for the approach. And again, the hope is it's not a concession of picking 1, 2, or 3, but moving all 3 forward at the same time. But I think definitely District 2 was of most concern about declaring a housing emergency. The mayor, not necessarily on board with rent stabilization. Everybody else was at least receptive to it. It did not raise alarms about, no, this is out of order. But ultimately, like we said, unanimous support amongst the commissioners to do the background research and come back on June 5th.
Wes, is there any next step in my brain would be, is a way that we can increase the number of rental units available within the urban area today, part of the corridor, but it's also throughout the county. What things as a county can we do? And maybe this is a workshop or input, but is it impact fees are per unit. So if you build 100 units, you're paying 100 impact fees. And maybe there's ways that we as a county can work with those impact fees to densify and give them a break on the, if they build them more and then get an agreement on a reduction of rents based on that. That would be the top one idea. I don't know all the things, but why is it so expensive to do what we do in downtown Orlando versus the little 4-story wood frame stuff that they're doing all over the place? We seriously need to densify, and we seriously need affordable housing. So we got to figure out, why is it so dang expensive to do housing? I mean, is it huge profit margins for the developers? I understand there's cost. I mean, certain materials have gone up. Maybe we need to start a conversation within the county, and maybe this is the group to try to push it towards it, because rent is one thing, but then it's supply and demand.
Right.
The demand is so huge right now that they can get it. They're down by me, a flat is going for $1,700 a month now.
Right. Yeah, it's, again, this is not one silver bullet will solve everything, right? This rent stabilization is a short-term emergency relief. Long-term relief, we're looking at the affordable housing for all. We're looking at, what can we do to encourage infill development and growth. Part of the problem too that we're having, a lot of what we look at for smart infill density is really inside the city of Orlando. And so we don't have that jurisdiction or control over how to dictate that. So we've got to kind of partner with the city of Orlando and see what we can do there. Outside of that, where it's unincorporated Orange County, we can definitely work on identifying what the obstacles are. I think the affordable housing panel addressed some of those things. Again, they're not moving fast enough. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to do, is create that sense of urgency. And also, Commissioner has had several conversations with developers asking, what are the stumbling blocks? What is the red tape that's keeping you from doing these infill projects instead of just going out and doing sprawl projects? So it's part of a greater conversation, and I think that we're going to have that and continue to have it. And we'll just keep working on it, I guess, is the short answer. But there's not going to be just any one thing that's going to work. It's going to be a multi-approach to solve this problem.
There's nothing that you want us to do. We just ask the questions that we saw.
Yeah, I think we're okay right now. Once we can identify some tangible, this is what we need to have done, and ask to build some support around that specific cause or purpose, we'll let you know. I think the biggest thing right now is just make sure on June 5th, we keep people coming and addressing the fact that we have a housing emergency in Orange County. That will allow us to get this rent stabilization hopefully moving forward, and we'll continue to work on identifying roadblocks that are in the way for development of new properties for infill.
Or do you see us to maybe try to work with the city of Orlando, since they control so much of the habitat downtown? Is there something that, as an organization, like our group, find some housing group within the county, the city, talk to and say, look, let's work together on this problem. And we can do smart things by providing a higher density in the city. We're one and the same, we're trying to solve the same problem.
Absolutely, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to bring Austin in on this with YIMBY and see, what are they doing at the city level that we can amplify or put our weight behind. And he's under the weather today, but I think when he comes back, we can ask him how we can kind of partner together with them on that.
I mean, the most exciting thing I see right now, at least my area, is the Fashion Square property and also all the city property across the street on the airport side. That's all owned by the city. They own probably 100 acres right there. So we have a huge opportunity to create a nice grid to give some relief to 50. We have a huge potential to build a massive amount of housing right by downtown, which gives us opportunity to extend the links loops out to that point. So now we have a loop from UCF downtown all the way up there, which is about only a mile and a half, 2 miles. But it's a huge opportunity. This is a golden thing. It's almost as important as shutting down the Orlando Executive Airport.
Right. Well, and you saw the apartment complexes going up at Fern Creek and Colonial. That was a gas station that's been taken down, and now they're putting apartments in, albeit they're luxury apartments, but they're at least doing more infill there. I think it's a great opportunity for us to continue to try to find ways of partnership. So
yeah, things like that where I know the property you're talking about. It would have been nice if we had heard more about that, because as a resident of nearby, I drive by it daily. It looks like it's just going to be residential. I don't know if it's going to be retail. It doesn't look like it, because they didn't put any concrete before. It's going to be one of those crappy wood frame structures again.
Yeah.
Termite city. But it's these Californians coming in here and doing their wood frame stuff, and it's like the termites.
yep.
Les, I have just another VC update question. It's
Sure.
about the transportation tax. It's next week, or
Yep, it's on Tuesday, yes.
is it the 2 p.m. session?
It should be the 2 p.m. session, yes.
Public hearing.
Yeah, it's a public, this is the vote, so it will be afternoon,
I think
yeah.
it's like 15 more. So I think we can do it fast.
Yeah. So bring your popcorn and sleeping bags.
There's going to be a lot of us speaking as I before it.
So Austin's under the weather, so UCF Border Group, and the other group member there. So essentially, we're still in pause mode because we're waiting on the Vision 2050. And
Where's that at?
I don't know.
Where are they at? Because, I mean, unfortunately, the growth and all this is being heavily influenced by this plan that's not even approved yet.
Right.
And we're living under the 2050, because that's what they told us.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
in the study area.
I don't think there's a public draft out yet, so, glad to follow up with the staff and see if they have anything for public consumption just yet, but,
Because public policy seems to be driven already by it. And, we're fighting against the grow and sustain.
Sustenance.
I'm sorry.
Sounds to me like sustainable, sustainable.
Such a stupid word. Kind of word.
I just love the iterations that come out.
Sorry, I keep screwing it up. And
I love it. It's good.
For the next 15 years. But we're being pushed as an urban layer out there when we really need to be pushed backwards towards the urban area of today.
Yeah, here, I have a question. Like, what if this is the next agenda item? Because Austin he's not here, and we're just on pause with that group. So with the Vision 2050, I know they did a whole bunch of focus groups, and they did surveys and things. But what if, like, the final product? What if the public doesn't? Are there amendments that are made according to more public feedback to see the final product, or what's the process?
it definitely has to go through the public process. So, I mean, it's basically a full new comp plan. So it's it's a process that's more involved than just like a basic comp plan amendment that you can see on the standard agenda. It's essentially reworking the entire comprehensive plan. So there will be a lot of public input once that document comes out. And then the county ultimately is just gonna have to make a decision on, where to go from a policy standpoint. It's all a policy document. So,
Just going to update all the chapters in the current growth management plan. But that's what we're working on right now. So it's, with all these like things coming up before us, they're being pushed by the new Vision 2050, but they're not actually official.
that's correct, yeah.
So
I mean,
it's kind of ironic
Vision
that,
2050 hasn't been adopted.
Yeah.
so I mean, that would be a point of contention that we shouldn't be approving new development when it's not even policy yet.
Who's writing that vision 2050?
There's staff members in the comp plan section in the planning division with
City of
assistance from
Yeah.
Orange County and assistance from, I believe they have a couple of consultants on board assisting with it.
That'd be good, maybe like, we should invite them here, like a meeting and kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean, they should see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would really, because I think that would, I feel like we're just trying to, read the reminders, but maybe we can have direct communication and maybe have some input into what maybe goes into it. So I'm sure they're requesting different feedback from different groups, and so I think we definitely could be one of them. So I want to say that, is that possible? Can we invite them?
We can ask, absolutely.
The county doesn't do ears anymore, do they?
You're statutorily required to do an ear, but the process is a lot easier now. Like you can basically just write a letter saying you looked at the comp
Really, we
plan
don't
and did it.
have, it used to be a big study.
It used to be expensive to do an ear, but if you want to do it right, it's still expensive because
Yeah.
you're really supposed to do an audit of all your policies and figure out what's working, what isn't.
It's actually a good exercise.
It is.
What's a year?
Yeah, what is that here?
It's an evaluation and appraisal report of your comprehensive plan. So basically, you're required to do it by statute every.
And I think 263 chapter required every 8 to 10 years, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
And
used to
we've
do-
done a couple of them until Rick Scott decided to get rid of chapter 263 mostly.
And I can just mail a letter that says.
Yeah.
So what is it, what type of appraisal does it review?
So it looks at all the policies in the comprehensive plan, and are they still relevant? Are they still valid?
It's like an audit. It was an
Yeah.
audit.
It's policy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's year-based amendments that you propose changes to your comp plan. You say, we looked at all these policies. These no longer make sense.
So it audits your comp plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Consultants will do it, staff will do it. It's just a mix of folks who are in that.
It took months. It was like
It's a big deal.
it was a big deal. It took 6-8 months of doing public meetings. I mean, I attended a couple of them over the years. And it was a good exercise because, I mean, it forces you to sit down and say, how are these things actually working that we thought about? Because right now we have a stale policies out there. We don't really know. And now we're doing a 2050, partially probably because we're not doing years anymore. And we're out of sync now.
Yeah.
Because you learn. I mean, you do the best you can with the policy, and then you go forward.
That's right.
So I guess Vision 2050, we just kind of don't know where it is right now. But I think that the surveys are still open. I was on the website last week. The surveys are still open. So they're still collecting data. Still collecting data.
Yeah.
So you still have an opportunity to provide that. So there were wetland ordinance updates coming from the December 14th meeting. CC, and I think the commissioner was probably going to provide an update there. Wes, do you know the updates from?
I do not have any wetland ordinance updates.
Okay. Do you, one of the things that we were talking about with the grove, so the grove meets all of the retention pond requirements. But, science has come a long way since the ordinances were drafted for retention ponds. Is there something that this group could potentially do with regard to looking at updating those?
Maybe we could invite Dr. Bob to come in and help us with some of the language.
paper, he wrote
Yeah,
all
he
the
wrote a bunch
conditions.
of, wrote a lot of
Yeah.
conditions. So the big problem is, there's a, not concern, but the knowledge that water is not being properly processed and treated via through retention ponds, uptake all the nutrients that are in the water. It's controlling maybe the flow somewhat. But the concern of Dr. Falk and others is it's not uptaking the nutrients and other chemicals are in there. So there's a compensation. We got to create more like minor wetlands for these things where you have retention pond flowing into it. Maybe in a big community would be a community wetland that would pre-process before it's finally released into the environment. And it would be a managed wetland, just like the Atlantic wetlands. It would be managed, cleared every couple of years, so you have a high growth rate, so that young plants are uptaken as fast as possible. And that's how Atlantic wetlands is treated. Every X number of years, the whole thing is stripped back down to the soil, replant it. Young plants, just like young kids, grow like wildfire, and they uptake a lot of nutrients. Not like us old parts, you just
Yeah.
throw it away.
So, what could we do, Wes, from this group, from this? I mean, is this something that the commissioner would take to the BCC and present as a potential item, and then a committee would be formed, or what is that?
I think we can come up with some recommendations, provide them to the commissioner, and she can make it an agenda item for review, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
Maybe we suggest a citizen board put together to give input and then go for the comments. So we have like Dr. Pond and others who are professionals that know this, that work with the county officials. And together they come up
Yeah,
with
so
a joint.
Eugene and I, so we can do probably like that worksheet that we did before for the next meeting, and then maybe we can share it with the group. The project worksheets that we did for these two projects with LPN and UCF corridor.
Yeah.
I thought when they build all like the retention ponds and stuff, isn't that through the water management district? I've partially designed a couple ponds, and they're FDOT ponds, but I remember it was like through the water management district. But I guess I think that's like the law.
State road would be a little.
Yeah, I don't work on state roads.
Yeah, state road would be a little different than like these communities that we're working on. County. St. John's probably, or South Florida might oversee and say, yay, these are man-made control structures, so.
Yeah, cause I've done it for FDOT, it's just the water management district.
Yeah, you're looking at input output flows being approximately the same. Some level of treatment, but
Yeah, it's all pictures,
Yeah.
how long it stayed there and stuff. So I'm still a little confused of like, I guess your strategy that I guess you're trying to put creating like a committee, or who are you trying to?
but we're gonna, right now, the design is based on the current engineering thinking of how we control water.
Is that regulated by the county? The design that the subdivision put up, or who was permitting that?
I think it's county, it's CPD.
You have to permit through both. You have to permit ponds through the water management district and through the county development engineering reviews it. So most of the ponds and subdivisions that you see, single family subdivisions, are owned and maintained by the county. And that's historically been kind of a challenge with doing anything more than just a hole in the ground, because the MSBU that everyone pays for maintenance is low. So they just have money to really like mow and blow around the edge. So they don't have money to, trim cypress trees or do all that kind of cool stuff that people want to see. So that's been the challenge.
I'm interested, because I know my MSU for downtown, we have 2 dry ponds. I pay $137 a year in the dry ponds. It's grass, and they fertilize the grass nicely. And it's a suction thing where they suck the water down through the fertilizer directly into Fern Creek. So that's why if you go to the pond, it's really bright green.
Which pond is that?
Just south of the 528 by Greenwood Cemetery. as a retention pond, and sometimes it turns bright green.
South of 408.
Boy,
Yeah, gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
the dog park.
Got
area.
it, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, it's, and I mean, Fern Creek comes out, and it, unfortunately, I've watched and I've photographed it. I need to talk to our commissioners. Yeah, but one of the things I want to start seeing is like our retention pond is a dry retention pond. It actually be more functional if they allowed some of the water to stay there and we maintain a wetland there and allow the uptake. And actually, it's very cheap. I mean, I don't know. It actually is, what the problem is in most of these developments, they're trying to maintain like a yard. So they're like in the city of Orlando, they will mow right down into the water, and they don't need to do that. You got these guys that they don't know what they're doing, so they feel like they have to do something, so they mow everything. And in actuality, you don't want to mow down into the wetland. You want to let those plants grow. So the actual costs are actually lower, but you got to have trained people. And I was married to a person at one point that had to hire people like this, and it's a really difficult thing in this society to find trained people that do that type of work because we don't have any training. So we hire really inexpensive people that don't really understand. They want to work hard, and they work hard, but they don't necessarily do the right thing. So, I mean, the best example would go out to Mark, I forget his last name, who runs the Orlando Wetlands. There's 4 people out there that maintain the whole place. That's it. And that's a couple, it's over 1,500 acres that they maintain. There's 4 people. And that takes 30 to 40 million gallons a day.
So Eugene, by the next month, I think you and I can do like a project sheet that we can put in to the commissioner. And I guess this is actually item number 4 with the stormwater ponds. Yeah, we just accidentally stumbled right into that. So Eugene and I can take that up as an action item for the next meeting.
Sounds good, thank you.
Then we had a update from on animal services, and I know that was Karen, and her child is sick, so she had to.
Yes, I'm working with Karen on that one.
Oh,
So yeah, I can give you an update. So we are focusing on educating the public on pet overpopulation, and the summer's coming up. And I'm a foster also for animal services, and this is kitten season. So having said that, we reach out to a nonprofit. It's called Spay and Neuter Nation. We're going to meet with the president next week to see how we can collaborate to prepare some programs to distribute to the public and have them be aware of how important it is to spay and neuter. And they provide vouchers for this purpose. So it is expensive. The vet costs have gone to the roof, and also apartment complexes have started to charge monthly pet fees, which was unusual in Orlando. I moved here in 1996, and they didn't charge monthly pet fees at that time. This is recent, I guess, because they can. So we see a lot of animals, dumped at the shelter. So I think that an important step for us is to educate people on spaying and neuter to, give them some relief this summer.
We put a bill to stop the fees from being charged.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
have rent stabilization for the pets too.
but
Yeah, they should.
that's-
Yes.
Right. I mean, that's just another way to gouge someone. That's like charging for, I don't know, like getting on Spirit Airlines and getting a seat. You want a seat too?
And I think
Yeah.
it's an addition.
Yeah.
to compensate it.
Yeah, it's,
And then in addition.
And pay
it's
pet
the
rent, yeah.
Pet rent, yeah.
yeah.
And that's part of the concern about this rent stabilization is that, we do all of this work and we get rent under control. And then there's a common area electric fee and a valet garbage fee.
Yes.
And you want a key to your house fee. And yeah,
Parking fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Spirit Airlines. Oh, here's your ticket for $20, but you have to pay all these other fees and then
Right,
you're
you want an inside seat or outside seat,
Yeah.
you tie it to the
all
wing,
of a sudden
and
now
you can
you're,
buy the rope too.
yeah, you're paying the full price. Okay, well, thank you for the update.
Sure.
Thank you, Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah. Of course.
Not quite.
So with the new business, but I guess before we move on to these, we'll finish and then we can ask Eric some questions. He can help us.
I noticed you all sat over there. Yeah.
You can come
Okay,
closer.
here.
Come on over, we got our shots, we all got shots.
Yeah.
You're still in the line of fire,
Oh.
Eric. You're
I
not
got all the
divorced from
shots.
the county
too.
long
I
enough.
got the shots in for the virus. I'm good.
Oh, no.
I'm bulletproof.
I did too.
Fun stuff.
Okay, so further in-person meetings, Zoom option and recorded session as well. Are we, so I guess we're providing multiple modalities of attendance. So just do what works for you, I guess.
Yep, just do what works for you, and I'll keep sweating through it until it gets up and going. And
Is this all your personal equipment that you got?
no, this is some of this was here. Some of this is the commissioners, and some like the laptops to counties, but we'll make it work. So, and just so you know, next meeting is May 11th, and it will be, if you're in person, at the YMCA at J. Blanchard Park. A quick question though. Would you all be open to moving it to 7 instead of 6:30? Does that allow people a little bit more time, or is 6:30 better?
I prefer 7, just I come from downtown, so I have to rush to get out here.
Okay.
Seven's good with me.
7 works. All right, cool.
That's good.
We'll push it back to 7 o'clock. Our online people, does 7 work for you all?
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
All right. Mike and Elizabeth?
Yeah, that's okay with me. I'm just hoping whatever time we get, it really starts on that time. That's just been the frustrating thing, the 2 meetings I've attended.
I think
We're starting like 30 minutes after we say we're going to start. So
no problem. All right, thank you.
Okay, so then we have our work groups that are going to break out, but I do the work groups. Do we need to break out this evening? I don't
No,
think so.
pretty small here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So then, we're always looking for new council members. So if you have friends, family, colleagues who want to join into some of these projects, we're always looking for council members. In terms of announcements, we really need people to come May 10th to the BCC meeting at 2 o'clock. It's not first up on the agenda. I can't recall where it is on the agenda. And just speak to why building urban-sized developments outside of the urban service area in the rural service area is not a good idea in the Yukon Basin. Yep, and tomorrow is the LPA, which staff is recommending. So, Eric, that's where I want to ask you a question. So like there's this meme that goes around on social media where it's like the definition of stupidity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right? So we keep showing up at these meetings, but it's always the same results, So like I'm looking at the LPA report for tomorrow, and staff is recommending adoption or recommending transmittal. So is there any chance that we're going to go into this and the LPA and the P&Z members are going to be like to go against the staff recommendation? I mean, I've never seen that happen.
Well, there's always a chance, and I've been on both sides of it. I've had reports where we were recommending approval to staff and the board did not approve. And I've had situations where we were recommending denial and the board's overturned staff. So, I mean, ultimately the board's decision, it's a legislative decision, with LPN. Ultimately it's a policy decision by the board. I mean, I wouldn't lean too much into what OPA ends up doing with it. I mean, it's a group of volunteers and it's an important board, but it's not final say. And, the real board can do whatever it wants after LPA takes action. So, and I think it does make a difference. So.
I think that as a board member on Parks and Rec, I mean, I hope that my volunteerism is useful. And I mean, we're doing some of the footwork because we do represent the districts. We do listen to the commissioners and we know where they're coming from. So we try to do some of the homework before they get, because they're inundated by a lot more than just this. It's a fire hose by the time it gets to their desk.
It's unusual. So like the rural settlement being included, the 18 acres, isn't it unusual for, I mean, I've never, because Orange County has been so protective over
How can they do that?
rural settlement.
And I haven't dug in on it. I mean, I just opened it up today for the first time while we were talking. And it looks like they're proposing like rural settlement densities in the rural settlement. So they're not technically taking it out of the rural settlement, they're leaving it in, consistent with the underlying rural settlement density. And if they're doing that, I don't know if there's a policy that says you can't do that. The policy says you can't expand or shrink rural settlements. Or it says you can't expand. I'm not sure if it says you can't shrink, but I'm pretty sure it says you can't shrink.
So did they buy the property? Is that how they got
Sure,
it?
they're under contract. Where else they own it?
I just thought that if it's in a rural settlement, it can't be part of a planned development.
Nope,
Because then they
PDs, you
could-
can do PDs in rural settlements, and there's actually a policy that says you're doing over a certain number of units, you have to do a PD in a rural settlement. I don't know if this qualifies because it's just a little small area of rural settlement. It's not like one of the, I mean, the county's processed large PDs in rural settlements from time to time out on the west side.
So then it would have to be, I guess the rural settlement is one home per 1 acre.
Yeah, they would have to respect the rural settlement densities.
Would they be
They're
on the sewer?
underlying income.
Are they on sewer then? And on utility services?
I haven't read the report. So I don't know.
They're typically
They're not
nothing,
on central. So
Yeah.
they're-
So
they're
they're-
not on that.
so they're gonna extend the water into them.
Which one is this?
This is Lake Picket North Sesame.
So Sustin, yeah, they're using the grow as the leapfrog to get to the services on Colonial. So once the grow is in, they would use the water and waste to tie in from the grow down to Colonial Drive.
And I believe the policies require that
Yeah.
because, they were supposed to come together when the board originally adopted the first set of policies that I never disagreed with, but that's, what the board did.
So, with the text amendment, the Lake Picket text amendment says on average, it's 6 homes per acre, or maximum 6 homes per acre on average. But if the public comes through, I mean, it says, okay, we're not opposed to no development, but we'd like to see it being compatible, like the northern boundary is 1 acre lots, so pick up with 1 acre lots, and then 2, 3, and as it graduates towards the rural boundary on the other side of Seminole County, to use those as compatibility. Is that something that's reasonable? Or?
I think that's what the grow did, right? They did the buffer fronting on the road on the north and on the west, correct? They had an extended landscape buffer in that area.
Yeah. Well, we got Dwight to commit to 1 acre lots on the northern boundary with the anticipation that Lake Picket North would then, in order to be compatible, would have to pick up with 1 acre.
Would reciprocate. Are they not doing that?
So they're saying, they're using transects, but so they've got 917 acres to build on, and they're promoting it as 58% open space. But the whole issue is that they've got class 1 wetlands, so they can't build on those, they can't infill those lands. So 60% of their land they can't build on. So they're promoting it as though it's something that they're doing because it's a sustainable development, but really what it is they can't build on the wetlands.
So they're counting the wetlands towards their open space requirement?
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
Well, no, this is nothing in their actual report. It's their marketing ploy that
Right.
they're going to the BCC with. It's like, oh, 58% of this is going to be open space, but the 58% of the open space is the wetlands. So it's not within their official documents. That's within their presentation.
Got it.
So how are open lands calculated?
So the open in the comp plan, open space is defined as community focal points, park, it could be a community garden. So it lists these different things that could be included. Could have stormwater retention, like in the open space. So it lists these certain things that could be included. Wetlands are not included within the defined open space of the amendment or of the comp plan. But anyway, so Eric, so how can we beat Lake Pickett?
I'm not taking a position, obviously, on the project. I'm just not doing that.
Yeah.
I would suggest, and I mean, you did beat it before, right?
Yeah.
Did that happen? Yeah.
We had to throw Ted Edwards out of office.
Well, the point is,
Yeah.
the board's a lot different than it was back then. So, I think you guys know the playbook, on how to fight development. You've been doing this longer than most people in the county.
It's not fighting development. It's just an urban-sized development in a rural area. It's just,
So I fully understand it.
and why don't they just extend the county service line? Why don't they extend it? Why does the county do that?
The urban service area.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to put an urban population in the
Yeah.
rural area, why don't you extend the line? Why won't they extend the line and then provide the services?
It's a half pregnant thing they're doing right now.
Well, I
Because these T zones, it's like transit, and like, they're not transit, they're R1, R2, R3.
Yeah.
So it's like they're called Ts. We're not getting after you, it's just, we're a little frustrated.
No, we're so glad you're here.
No, I get it. I mean, Commissioner
So
asked me to
glad
join
you're
this
here.
group, and I really wanted to be
We'll
on the
take
work
you out for a
group.
beer.
I wanted to be on the work group and talk about the UCF corridor, and
Yeah, and
You know,
we want to do
I
that.
had a really good meeting with Austin on that before I left, and
I was in it.
yeah, that's right, you were there,
Yeah.
and I came away really impressed and want
I
to
mean,
help.
It could
So-
be like really a
Could be good.
vibrant,
Well-
cool.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, one of the ideas about
Yeah.
that is if we could create transfer density credit. So, all these new developments that we're fighting on the east side, they still can make money. They got the density credits. They can sell them. And if we create a policy that says, okay, developer, we have certain overlays, let's call it the UCF corridor overlay. And if you want to, you're okay with 50 units per acre. But you can buy these density credits and get 100 units, and you're okay. So you can actually increase your density units over the baseline density if you buy. So these guys make their money, because that's all this guy is from maybe Dallas or Texas, and we're not sure where he's from.
Sanibel Island.
Sanibel Island, he's not identified his actual location yet. But he doesn't care about Orange County. We care, we live here. So, okay, we'll provide them the money. They create this density credit. They also can create a lot of other things, but that would be one mechanism for them to get the money. And hopefully for us, we're trying to buy that land, and that gives them a way that they make money, and then we can do other things for mitigation.
yeah, I mean, those transfer development rights programs have worked in areas, where you're different parts of the country.
Yeah.
Um,
And the world is
we had it here in Horizon West, I'd argue it's not as successful because they let you buy down, because there's minimum densities out there. So you can buy below the minimum, you can buy up above the max. And you're also really just preserving these like little green belt areas that aren't, it's not large tracts of agricultural land or.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, out there, as a botanist type, there are certain locations out there that have highly endangered places that if you save an acre, I'm looking at seed choice, we actually can save a species out there. In the east side, we got these larger landscapes, which would be beneficial because they're big percolation areas. Out west, percolation, but you just need to go through the sand there.
That's great soil out west.
So,
So,
but yeah, I mean, I think there's some really cool things that we can do with the UCF
I think
overlay
there's some awesome.
and do some, because that place, I mean, driving over here tonight, I drove up side street between Rouse and here. It's all two-story old apartments. If there's
What's
a
the name of
mechanism.
the quad, what is it, quad corner?
Quadrangle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, think like developments like that, but going higher. So,
Yeah, and that was always like kind of the hot rail.
yeah.
You know, when I first started in the county, there was a lot of opposition in the quadrangle, particularly because there's some residential immediately adjacent to the west, kind of
Yeah.
northwest, a little cutout. And they'd had some problems with student housing historically because there's student housing existing in there. So projects would get denied all the time in there. They convert to student housing. And I think that mindset's changed. And had a couple of projects that have been put recently in there.
All the student, and I work for UCF, so I advocate for UCF, but if we could just take the students and concentrate them into this area where they work there, they're educated there, they hang out there.
Make a student a cool place to be.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, we're going to apartments out in Fort Bay, which are going to be student housing, which is already over. You're going to have to do a flyover eventually. on that.
It makes it hard for them to get to class.
I agree. I think, ideally it would be located on the east side out there. So you didn't have to cross the road. You get back roads into the, to the research park on the campus, which is probably a little bit safer than having to cross the road. But pretty well documented with challenges of safety.
Yeah.
County and County and UCF are working together on those pedestrian improvements, which is really good news story. It's just,
How much you want to elevate the road in certain areas. The good thing about UCF in that area, it is high and dry, so you actually could top the road a little bit.
The challenge is when you think about like the college town there in the involved, there's a nice main street, two-way roads, on-street parking, nice streetscape, active storefronts, all those things, right?
But UCF was never designed, it was a scam back in 1960. The idea to sell 1,000 acres, he sold it.
So, yeah, so, and I think, we're looking at some of those decisions that were made way back when.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's not a tremendous amount of housing on campus. I mean, there's some, when you look at the demand for student housing, thousands of housing calls.
I went to UCF in 1980, so.
Still FTU back then?
Huh?
Was it still FTU?
Yeah, it just changed the semester before. And we only had 4 dormitories. There's 2-story ones which are not being used anymore. And then Orange, Osceola, and 3 dorms. That was built 3 years after I started. That was the maintenance man. Yeah.
I graduated in 2005. It's hard to believe it's been 17 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
doesn't go fast.
I know.
Jeez.
36 years.
So, anyways, other announcements, really disappointing news is the Split Oak Forest Road today. What is the board? What was that?
That's Florida Communities Trust Board voted.
Unanimously.
Yep.
They had the orders from the fascist governor that we have, and they did their day. It was interesting how they rationalized each one of them. They did a good job rationalization, and the lawyer did this really interesting jig of how they did not have to pay attention to the Constitution about accessing conservation land.
Yeah, so that was very disappointing.
But it's not over. The next phase is starting now.
What is the, so, because obviously you know, a lot of us were there and watching. What is the next phase? I'm assuming it's a legal challenge in court.
But, well, I think, I mean, one, it has to come back to the county, no matter what Demon says, it's coming back because there's not enough definition to go forward.
Okay.
So,
But that's what I didn't understand today when I was listening in. Why does, they were talking about home rule and how they support home rule and how it has to come back to the county.
Mhm.
But I didn't understand in what capacity is it coming back to the county? Because Demings kept saying, this isn't coming back to the county. This is now out of our
this
hands.
is not- according to Rachel Demons, who's from Berry Law School, they haven't defined the actual location of the road. They still have to come to it and define a lot of that as a partner. Because we're a partner. I mean, that lawyer actually misspoke. There was no simple fee. It's
Fee
a simple
simple.
term. The Constitution doesn't speak in that language. So it was interesting how he was trying to not admit that they have to work with the conservation disposal of the land, showing that it doesn't meet the requirements, which is, does it not still help go towards descriptive? FWC said yes. So there's going to be a lawsuit. I guarantee you there's going to be a lawsuit, and it will go. It's constitutional. It's going to be a constitutional lawsuit. Now, I think it does come back, and the community definitely will show up. And it was like 60 people that drove up there, and then it was another 100 of us on the phone for 4.5 hours.
Yep.
And then took them a lesson. And you know, Kim Picard got up in the middle when they were talking. They had made a bunch of motions, but they didn't include it in their final motion, which I was really confused what was going on
They
there.
made conditions,
Conditional,
but then didn't adopt any of them.
no. So we have nothing.
So,
Okay.
so it just comes back in the capacity of
We think
kind of
so.
like, how are you doing this? But essentially the vote will stand, so it doesn't come back for another vote.
I don't know. I'll have more information next time because we're gonna have a meeting internal among all of us who have standing. Anyone who spoke today or has introduced, we have standing now with the legal challenge.
Okay.
So my stuff was read into the record. You spoke. So everyone has standing that has entered a letter or something. So
If you need help from me to do whatever, let me know. And just so you know, too, the commissioner has me looking into what was actually passed and can we bring it back up for a vote, and what are her rights as a commissioner to bring this back.
But she was on the losing side. Can she bring it back?
That's what we're trying to work out and see. Because we have the same issue with Commissioner Wilson having not been there, but my argument would be that the vote is
The district seat.
the district seat, not the individual occupying it, and therefore that would have been an affirmative vote, and she could call it back. There's language in there that's really interesting, so
there's history there, Wes, that Brumley, when he was commissioner, he was elected into the seat, and if you remember, the Buicaibra bike trail was supposed to go through the park.
Mhm.
But that happened to be in his backyard. He didn't like that. So he actually brought it back, although he wasn't on the board. But the attorney from the county said it was okay. Now, I don't know, why is it because he's a male and she's a female?
When was that?
This is going back, what, 8-10 years ago?
I think so.
It's a while back, but Brumley had just been elected, and it was a previous commissioner had voted yes for that, and he didn't like it, and he got changed. The bike rate is now right on Park Avenue.
I'll look into that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the rules are different on who you are. And I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, no, of course not.
And I mean, as a resolution, one of the things is I think you also, it wasn't a direct vote on the item. It was a recommendation to go do something. It wasn't an actual vote.
It was an approval to move the application forward.
Yeah. But it wasn't actually approval to say yay to it. There's a consideration. You're allowed to go look at this, but we haven't actually taken the final vote because I think District 3 has already voiced that she did not actually vote for the road. She just said, go look at this and get your decision, because a lot of times, you know, it's a mom-dad thing. Go talk to dad. Maybe they'll answer the right way. And a lot of times, that's what different levels of government do. They will push it off to the higher level government. Hopefully they'll do it. So now I don't have to do the bad guy stuff. So I think that has happened too on those votes, somewhat. I can't blame them. I mean, it's a very controversial issue. And they were probably hoping for FCT because historically, this is conservation land. We don't do that.
Right.
But evidently rules are different today.
So, on that note,
Sorry.
we shall, if there's a motion to adjourn. Oh, good.
Before that, anybody else have any announcements they want to share
Announcements, anybody else?
online?
Did you hear what happened in Tallahassee this afternoon?
No.
Santa's food
Depends.
is
What
No,
Reading.
a lot happened. What was it?
was bad. Go ahead, Bob.
Bob, you're on mute.
He's muted.
Bob, we can't hear you. Unmute you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Randolph was on the news just before I sat down here, and he said that if Reedy collapses as such, that it winds up, I guess, really screwing up Orange County's budget and Osceola's budget, of course. So I guess Randy is loose again up there in Tallahassee, and he got it through the Senate today, and they say it's going to pass in the House. So, and supposedly DeSantis is going to sign it.
What, to dissolve? Reading?
To dissolve Reedy Creek. Now, the interesting thing is, someone was talking to me about this yesterday, that you can't dissolve the entity without a vote of the entity confirming the absolation, I guess, or whatever, absolvement. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, because obviously the people that live in Reedy Creek are picked by Disney to be there, and obviously I think that they would vote to nix this. So, but yeah, we could be on the hook for $2 billion worth of bonds.
Wow. Good stuff.
Oh,
Freedom.
you take over all the bonds?
Yeah, because the municipality would no longer exist, so the bond would go to the next highest entity, which would be Orange County. So we would be responsible for their outstanding bonds. We would be responsible for road maintenance, public safety, blah, 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 blah.
Well, I see DeSantis' reason, because
Well, don't
this
we
is a
have
blue
like,
county.
don't we have $2 billion laying around somewhere?
Yeah, for the affordable housing.
Yeah.
No, that means we don't have a fire department out there, we don't have a police department out there. We have a sheriff department
Well,
on
the sheriff-
campus.
yeah.
But it's very odd when you think about what you're doing. It's a huge private piece of property and it's a park. I mean, I guess you can do calls, but Reedy Creek has a very large fire department. They have a medical facility and everything.
Yep. It would be very, very interesting. I mean, they have no plan as to how to transition this. It was very hastily done, and it's just a sloppy mess, and we'll have to deal with it. So,
But they're gonna do it and they're gonna slop a pizza on the table half cooked. And we're gonna have to deal with it.
Bob, did you have anything else?
No, that's it. Randy is loose again.
Yeah.
I love him. The
Elizabeth?
proverbial cannon.
Elizabeth, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, thank you.
All right, Mike, anything?
8 o'clock.
Carolina, did you have anything else you wanted to add tonight?
No, that was it.
All right, thank you. All right, we're good.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, is there a second?
No, thank you, Mike.
Okay, adjourn.
Erica, sorry we didn't have the UCF corridor thing.
That's all right.
All right.
Awesome if you thought to keep it.
It's not.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great
Can you
night.
get up this way, Leo?